I want you to stop for a second, not because there's something wrong, but because I want you to notice that something is happening right now. In this moment, as you're watching this, your brain is making a decision, and it's making it constantly, every few seconds, every time you're scrolling. It's doing it without even asking your permission. And that decision is simple. It's asking, is this worth watching, or should I scroll on to somewhere else? And you're not really aware that it's happening. And neither is your audience, but it's happening to them every single time they land on your content. And here's what nobody is telling people like you and I right now. The reason people click away from your videos, the reason they scroll past your posts or open your email and close it within 3 seconds is not because your content is boring. It's because something is happening inside their brain, something that we've never been taught to work with. Now, and I want you to notice this, I just did something deliberately to your brain. I told you that there was a reason that people are clicking away. And then I haven't told you what that reason is. I've opened a loop, and your brain, without your permission, because it's nosy, slightly leaned in because it wants to know more. That's the first dopamine hit, the unanswered question, that open loop. Your brain wants to know more. It can't leave it alone. And we're going to talk about exactly how to do this in your content. But first, I need to tell you something that I'm a little bit embarrassed about. About 2 years into running my online business, I did everything right. Consistent content, a solid plan. I was showing up on video. I was writing all the emails, doing the thing, and people were still clicking away within seconds. Not all of them, but enough that I could see it in my analytics and feel it in my gut. That creeping sense that you're putting real effort in and it's just not landing. And I did what most of us do. I assumed it was me. My niche wasn't clear enough. My content wasn't good enough. My face wasn't the right kind of face for video. I spent months tweaking the wrong things. Now pause. Did you just feel something shift when I said that? That moment of, yes, I've done that too, Claire. That recognition, that she gets it. That's the second type of dopamine hit, the moment of recognition. When your audience hears their exact experience described back to them, dopamine fires. Not because you said something clever, because you made them feel understood. And being understood is one of the most powerful rewards the brain can receive. Use this in your content. Describe the feeling of the problem before you go anywhere near the solution. Always. Right. Now back to my story, because I promised you that something was coming and I haven't yet delivered it. What changed everything for me wasn't a new content strategy. It wasn't a new platform. It was a piece of neuroscience that nobody had bothered to translate into practical advice for people like us. It's called micro-dopamine. And it's the reason some content holds attention effortlessly, while other content, no matter how genuinely good it is, gets abandoned in seconds. Here's the science, and I promise I'm going to make this simple. Your brain runs on dopamine. It's constant and it's completely normal. Dopamine is the chemical your brain releases in anticipation of a reward, not when you get the reward, when you expect it's coming. Write that down if you need to. Dopamine fires in anticipation, not on arrival, which means your brain is constantly scanning its environment and asking one question. Is there a reward coming? Is there something here worth staying for? And if the answer is yes, if something in your content signals that a reward is on its way, your viewer stays. Their brain literally holds them there waiting for the payoff. If the answer is no, the brain moves on within seconds. Not because your content's bad, but because the brain had no signal that it was worth staying for. Now notice what I just did there. I gave you a genuinely useful insight, a piece of real value, early, within the first few minutes. That's a micro reward, and it's the third type of dopamine hit. You're not saving everything for the end of the video. You're distributing value in small doses so the brain keeps getting rewarded for staying. Think of it like breadcrumbs. Each one is satisfying enough to keep your audience moving forwards. but not so satisfying that they feel like they've done and they leave. And yes, I'm doing this deliberately as I teach it to you, because the best way to understand this is to experience it yourself in real time. So let's talk about what micro-dopamine hits actually look like in your content practically, because this is the bit you came for. There are 5 types, and I want you to notice as I go through them that you've already experienced all of them in this video. The first one, the open loop, which I've talked about. Your brain can't resist an unanswered question. It's called the Zeigarnik Effect, and it's the reason you lie awake at 2 a.m. thinking about the thing you didn't finish. When you open a loop in your content, ask a question, tease a reveal, promise something you haven't delivered yet, the brain stays engaged, waiting for closure. I did this in the very first minute of this video. I told you there was something happening in your brain, and I didn't tell you what it was. You stayed to find out. Here's how to apply that practically. Open the loop early, close it late, and never open a loop that you don't intend to close. That's not a dopamine hit. That is just frustrating. I know, because I've experienced it when I'm on TikTok and they do stupid videos and you stay to the end and there's no resolution. Then you've got the pattern break. Your brain habituates to sameness. Anything that stays the same long enough gets filtered out as background noise. This is why you stop noticing the hum of your fridge. In content terms, if your videos, posts, or emails follow exactly the same rhythm all the way through, your audience's brain starts to tune out. It's not rudeness, it's biology. The fix is deliberate pattern interruption, a sudden shift in pace, an unexpected statement, a moment of vulnerability in a video about neuroscience. I did that earlier when I told you I was embarrassed about something. You weren't expecting that. Your brain snapped back to attention. In your content, when you feel the rhythm settling, disrupt it. Ask a direct question. Tell a story. Say something that surprises even you. The micro reward. Now, we've already covered this one. Small, frequent doses of genuine value distributed throughout your content. Not all saved for the end of the video. Not rationed, you're breadcrumbing it. One useful thing within the first 60 seconds, another in the middle, another before the close. Signal constantly that more is coming. That moment of recognition. When your audience hears that something that describes their exact experience, dopamine fires. That's the exactly this moment. They know that moment. I created one of these when I described doing everything right and still watching people click away. If you felt that, your brain lit up, even just a little bit, because being seen is a reward. Build these moments deliberately. Describe the feeling of the problem in detail before you offer the solution. The more specific and accurate your description of their experience, the stronger the dopamine response. And then you've got the future promise. Tell your audience specifically what's coming, not vaguely, not I'm going to share some tips, but in 2 minutes, I'm going to give you the exact 5-step structure I use for every piece of content, and you can take it and use it today. That specificity triggers anticipation. Anticipation triggers dopamine. Dopamine keeps people watching. Let me zoom out for just a second, because I think there's something bigger underneath all of this. We are creating content in a moment of extraordinary noise right now. AI is generating content at a volume that none of us can compete with. Attention is fractured, and the temptation to keep trying to cut through by being more, louder, faster, more polished, more vulnerable, more everything. But that's not where the answer is. The people who are building real traction right now aren't necessarily the loudest or the most produced or the most prolific. They're the people whose content feels like it was made for the person watching it, where every few seconds the brain gets a little signal that says, stay, this is worth it, there's more coming. That's not about being lucky. It's a structure, and having a structure is learnable. When you shift from creating content based purely on what you want to say to creating content on how the brain actually receives information, everything changes. Now, the change won't happen overnight, but you will start to notice it. The comments start coming, the DMs start arriving. You feel like you're speaking directly to the people who you want to be seen by, the content is landing. And when your content lands, you keep making it. And consistency, as I've talked about on this channel before, is actually what builds a brand that people trust. Here's what I want you to take away. The structure I now use for every piece of content I create, I call it the reward loop. There's nothing special in that name. Open with a pattern interruption. Say something unexpected. Make a statement that stops the scroll. You have 3 seconds. Use them. Well, actually, last week at TubeFest, I was told that you have 0.9 seconds. Those first impressions count. Plant an open loop in the first 30 seconds. Promise something specific. That's coming later. Give the brain a reason to stay. Deliver a micro reward within the first 60 seconds. One genuinely useful thing. Early. Signal that more is coming. Break the pattern at least once in the middle. A story, a question, a shift in energy. Wake the brain back up. When the rhythm settles down, you need to keep their brains awake. Close the loop before you end. Whatever you promise, make sure you deliver it. Closure is deeply satisfying. That satisfaction is what makes people feel the content was worth their time and worth sharing. This is not a formula that will flatten your voice. You bring the expertise, you bring your personality, your points of views. This just gives it the best possible chance of being received by the brain that's on the other side of the screen. Let's come back to where we first started. Your brain is make a decision every few seconds. Is this worth my attention, or should I go somewhere else? Now you know what drives that decision, and you know how to give your audience's brain exactly what it needs to keep answering yes. And here's the thing, knowing this and doing this are 2 completely different things, because you can walk away from this video with the reward loop framework in your hand and still sit down to create content next week and stare at a blank screen. Still second guess your hook, still spend 40 minutes on an opening line that you end up deleting anyway. I know, because I've been there. And so has every single woman I've ever worked with who is smart, capable, deeply good at what she does, and still finds content creation harder than it should be. So I want to show you something. And I want you to notice as I do that I'm about to open one more loop. What if the hook wasn't the hard part anymore? What if you could tell a tool exactly who you're talking to, what you want to say, and what you want them to feel, and it handed you a hook that was already built around all of the psychology we've been talking about today? It's not generic, it won't sound like AI, and it's not the kind of opener that blends into every other piece of content in the feed. It's one that opens a loop, creates anticipation, and will stop the scroll. That's what I've built. It's called Limitless Script, and it's the tool I wish had existed when I was spending half my time trying to figure out how to start when I was creating content. Go and have a look. It's limitlessscript.co.uk, all one word. I shall put it in the description. And when you get there, notice how the page makes you feel, because I built that with everything we talked about today too. Oh, and I forgot to mention, it's completely free. And one last thing, remember to do your part, leave a heart underneath this video, leave a comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss another video. I'll see you soon. Bye.